Well, hello.
They're here.
They're here, all right.
Hi, guys.
Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. That remains to be seen. Hey, Steve. Hey, Jay.
Hi, how we doing?
We're here, everyone. I know
Good
that
evening.
tell by the intro. We are talking about alien invasion. So a bit of fun this one this week. A light-hearted look at what could be and what people say actually is happening, both on Earth and in the skies, and indeed on the Moon and on Mars. So obviously, we'll fly it amongst us, see what we think of each of the different things. There's a few questions that I have been asked about it. So we'll go down that route. We've got a bit of a big one next week, which is going to be on Jay's channel, Brief History of Mystery, which will be discussing the events of the September 11th attacks in New York on the Pentagon. And hey,
On the anniversary.
Yes, the 20th
Nearly.
anniversary, indeed, yeah.
A couple of days early, but we'll ignore that.
Yeah, and it's those 20 years have gone very fast. It's
Yeah, they
I
are.
mean, for such a momentous event, I can remember exactly what I was doing and where I was.
Yeah,
I'd say about the
okay.
JFK and the moon landings.
yeah.
I can't remember where I was when JFK was assassinated because I was -9.
Same minute.
But other than that, yeah.
Yeah, what kind of excuse is that for not remembering such a big event? What do you mean you wasn't born yet?
Just laziness.
Yeah, any excuse we don't.
Parents' fault, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, blame the parents.
Shag, parents, shag.
No, it's absolutely right. They sort of like I know it's going off on a little bit of a segue, but it was instigated by Nazi Germany, that wasn't it, and called the Joy Division. They would do that. Obviously, at a later date, taken on board by Ian Curtis and Bernie Sumner and all that lot for a band name. But anyway, we digress, which isn't unusual for this particular channel, or indeed Mystery Machine in general. Okay, so number one, and then we'll fly around. These two guys are pretty white on UFO type stuff, really. Got to be said. So it's going to be interesting listening to what they've got to say. And I'm just going to fly in every now and then and stir the pot, as it were. So the first one is sightings are more frequent recently. Why is that? Now, I've heard a few people say, and not just in the in the UFO community, but also in the paranormal community involving cryptids, that over the last 18 months to 2 years, that it's the amount of sightings worldwide have gone up for everything. And people are saying certain things like the veil is thinning more, when it comes to a spiritual and paranormal sense. Different types of cryptids are more being seen on a more regular basis and more prevalent, not just in Washington State, but the demographics right across North America and Canada have indicated that there's been a rise in sightings of Bigfoot and Sasquatch and so on. And that there's more UFOs being sighted around the world also, not just at what would be considered to be the usual so-called hotspots, which can change, as you guys know. That does vary, as there's been different hotspots over the years. And generally just an upsurge in the frequency of UFO sightings and the amount. So, Steve, first I'll throw it over to you to see what your take is on that kind of comment. What are you thinking about that, brother?
Well, yeah, it's a good point. I think, obviously, within the last sort of 18 months, we've had this pandemic, and a lot of people have been staying at home, haven't they? I think also that maybe a lot of people have because of this pandemic, have been a little trying to not open their minds up a little bit more, but a little bit more aware to what's going on around them, around, their bubble, looking outside and going for walks and exercise and all that sort of stuff, a lot more than what they would have done before, staying at home with your family and just, not going out, being in that one space. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with that. I also think it has a lot to do with possibly there are more sightings being seen. People are waking up to the idea a lot more, especially in the last sort of few years, since sort of 2015, 17 onwards, with all this headline Pentagon stuff being released, and the Tic Tac and Go Fast UFO footage and stuff like that. So it is out there in the mainstream media quite a lot in the last few years. And I think that really does have a big part to play. Definitely.
Okay, well, there's a couple of things there that might be worth picking up on, and Jay's had his say that were quite interesting and relevant. Jay, what do you reckon, buddy?
Yeah. Well, I would say historically, through the last century, really, we have periods of time when UFO sightings go up. They generally call them UFO flaps, and they seem to be 9-10 year periods where there is a large increase in UFO sightings, and then it seems to wane for 9 or 10 years, and then it seems to increase again. If you look at things like even like cattle mutilations and UFO sightings, there was sort of a 9 to 10 year period where the numbers are very high, and then they seem to drop off. So there's a couple of reasons. I do think there are more. Well, it may be that UFOs and whatever is visiting us does come in waves. They may arrive, they may set up camp sort of thing, they may do what they're doing, and then they might sort of go home. They might not be with us all of the time, sort of thing. There's also, though, possibly more likely is down to human psychology, and that these things sort of get into the media. People start looking up more. People's minds are open to the possibilities of seeing these things. It becomes more popular in the culture of the society. The side effect of that is, the positive of that is you're open to seeing things, and if you see something unusual, you're going to take more notice of it. The downside of that is when you see something completely normal. I'm thinking about the Goodyear blimp about a year ago, when everybody went crazy because they saw the Goodyear blimp and it looked like a UFO, and there's people stopping on the motorway to go, "Oh my God, it's a UFO!" And then you zoom in and it's the Goodyear blimp. Normally, people might not have given that a second look, but because it's so in the public domain and somebody went UFO, everybody else stopped and went UFO. And so I think the problem is that when we start having an increase in sightings, genuine sightings, we're also going to get almost an exponential increase in misidentifications. But like I said, these things seem to come in waves. And if you go through history, it seems to be that 10-year cycle. There might be a reason for that beyond just mass hysteria. There might actually be more to it.
Holiday
That was
season.
an excellent response. Okay, so each of you made a comment there that I like to pick up on, and I'll flip it back around the other way. So Jay, you'll have to go again. Is the fact about the waves and the flaps, because that is very interesting and very, very true. Obviously, it has been seen. We've had all sorts of things. If you're looking at the OVNI, the mass sightings over Mexico City of the OVNIs in the 90s, you've got multiple sightings again over Germany and over Belgium. That was in the 80s. You've got the emphasis for what seemed to be the big chunk of sightings in the UK went from around the Pennine area to Bonnybridge, mainly, if you like, in Scotland. And from East Coast to West Coast, USA, the Warminster flap. So what you're saying is absolutely correct. Now, we've seen that there might be some reason for that, like an absolute reason for that. Are we talking, you also mentioned that they're coming in waves, they could be setting up camp. Oh, do you think that's possibly down to the fact that because of the distances that are trying to be covered? I mean, I don't want to get too much wrapped into they can travel vast distances in such a short amount of time because of wormholes and vortices and things like that, bending space and time and so on. But do you think there's even a remote possibility that it's almost like a logistical thing, or because conditions are right, or the time is right, that these kind of things might be being seen, or that the waves might be occurring? Not so much from a human point of view, if you like. And remember, this is tongue in cheek, everybody. It's about having fun about the discussion.
It's thoughts, isn't it?
It's thought, yeah, absolutely. From the alien side of it, if you like, from the EBE side of it, is it? Do you think there's a possibility it's down to a logistical thing?
I would argue, yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, even if, regardless of how technologically advanced an alien species is, they are traveling vast distances. Our environment might not be particularly friendly for them, and it's actually almost certainly not going to be, because the War of the Worlds thing about the aliens were defeated by viruses and bacteria would be a genuine risk for any species. We know that from when the Europeans turned up in South America and wiped out 3/4 of the Inca. That germs and things would be a problem. So our environment would be a problem for them. But I could see almost like setting up expeditions. They would come out here, set up, do whatever it is that they're doing, probably research and just. There's always the big story about, well, why would aliens come here? Why would we be so interested? Why would we be so interested? How like egocentric are we to think that aliens would bother coming to us? And he goes, they would bother coming to us because we would go to them. Well, intelligent life, not that we're that intelligent, but intelligent life might actually be very rare in the universe, even though I imagine life is everywhere. Intelligent life might be incredibly rare. So even if we are ants compared to them, they would still come here to learn and to be interested. There might also be less pleasant reasons why they're coming, potentially. But I could see it that it would be an expedition. They would come, they would set up, they would do what they were going to do, and and then after however long, they would potentially head back. But there's also, we don't know what technology they're using to actually come here. If it is wormholes or something else, there might be periods it's like when we set up expeditions to go to Mars, we have a window that we can go because Mars is close enough to us that we can actually get to it without it being vastly more resources required. There might be something like that as well, that actually there are windows where they can come where it's easier, and there are there are periods of time where they just can't. But the problem is with that, we don't know what technologies they're using to come here. So while we don't know that, it's very difficult to understand why we seem to see, like say, ebbs and flows.
Okay, excellent. So it's Stevie. And given the way thing, I just will say this though quickly. Is it also sunspot activities and sun flares and stuff like that tends to happen every 10 to 11 years. He isn't lost on me.
Coincidence?
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering if it might be worth doing a little bit, looking into it to see if they coincide or if they sort of interweave with one another.
I tell you what, we are seeing a low ebb in sun activity at the moment.
Yeah.
So, and it's like we're in the low period, and it is increasing at the moment. So maybe it's when the sun isn't very active. We see
more, and when it is active, we see less. Okay, Steve, you said something before we move on to number 2 about people perhaps seeing more because they're more spiritually in tune or open-minded about it. And you did mention obviously about media portraying it more and everything. So do you think it's an rather subconscious, should I say, subconscious decision or subconscious move that people are doing that, rather than a conscious move to want to start looking to the skies or then paying more attention to what goes on regarding potential UFO activity and so on? Do you think that's a conscious thing, or it's just we're being fed it? They say, if you like, disclosure, but one drip at a time. What are your thoughts on that?
Possibly, mate. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, there is, in the last sort of 5-6 years, there's been so much of it in the headlines and the news and stuff like that, especially from Pentagon. So whether or not you're into UFOs or not, it's gonna be in the back of your brain somewhere, isn't it? And I'm sure that other family members and things like that will be into UFOs and that type of stuff as well. So it's going to rub off a little bit possibly onto other family members as well. But I think also, yes, that it is sort of slowly, as you just sort of said, being slowly drip fed into them, really, a little bit. It's a hard one, isn't it? It's a hard one to sort of explain or to get your sort of head around and sort of actually put your finger on it and sort of say that it's a mixture of everything. I think as well, especially with this pandemic. I think this pandemic's blown not every conspiracy that there is, but a lot of. I don't really want to use a C word, but
No,
I think
don't use this.
I think it's opened it up a lot more. Definitely, yeah,
I think we're at an all-time low in trust in our government as well.
yeah,
When you
yeah.
talk about conspiracies, maybe slightly wider. We're in the West. I don't think we've ever mistrusted our government quite as much as we do now. People think that back in the day, in the 50s, we used to all love our government and everything, and it's not true. People never liked or trusted their government, but it's so open at the moment that we don't, and there are a lot of people that just assume everything is a lie.
Yeah,
and to be honest, it's not. A lot of people need to calm down, but and actually think logically. But
very much
with
so.
the UFOs, I think with the drip fed of information, I'd say that it's really interesting at the moment. A lot of people think that the report that came out was a huge shame. No, well, they could have got disclosure, could have been disclosure. And they don't seem to realise the government, for the first time, have released a report saying we don't know.
Yeah.
And there might be something going on.
Massive, absolutely massive.
Yeah. Like actually, Obama is going on the news saying there are things in the sky and we don't know what they are. That is a complete U-turn. And people, anybody, particularly ufologists, who say, oh, that report was a con and everything else. I say you need to read between the lines there. That was actually a massive omission for a government that their job is to protect us. They're admitting there's stuff in the sky, they don't know what it is, and they can't protect us from it.
Yeah.
For a military, that's enormous.
That is a massive admission to make for that reason. But for the people who are in control to admit that they actually don't have control over a certain aspect of the society that they're supposed to be taking care of, absolutely. So let's shift across to number 2. So this one now, reports of UFOs on the moon and Mars. I maybe should have typed that a little bit better than that. Reports of UFOs on the moon and sightings around Mars. And obviously, I suppose we could sort of dip our fingers into the structures a little bit. Why not? Because are they going to be relevant? Who knows? So, the astronauts, obviously for the Apollo missions, and we're not going into, we did do a live stream about this and what we thought regarding man on the moon and the Apollo 11 landing and everything. So, ignoring that, taking that straight out of the equation, the astronauts landed on the moon, on more than one of the Apollo missions, seen either on the horizon, just above the horizon, what appeared to be UFOs, that weren't the command module in lunar orbit, or they would see saw beings which had stood on the crater on the surface of the moon. So, Steve, your turn this time. I could sort of see you almost licking your lips as I was saying it. I thought he's going to enjoy this particular one, so he'll sink his teeth into this one. What are your thoughts on that one, buddy? Let's go.
I've seen plenty of images. I'm a big believer in UFOs and extraterrestrial life, having visited Earth already. Okay, so yeah, I totally get that. I've seen tons of images of objects that look like UFOs or could be UFOs, live streams and all sorts. I've got my cameras out myself and sort of had a look and used Google Moon to scan the moon surface, and the same with Mars. And you see pyramidal shaped objects and things that look like Inca cities and ruins, both on the moon and Mars. It could be pareidolia. A lot of it probably is, but yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. But again, without seeing it for yourself and finding it on Google Mars or the moon, you can't really sort of say if it is or if it isn't. but yeah, I do believe that there's stuff on the moon. 100%. Yeah. I'm sorry if anyone disagrees with
No,
that.
no,
but
it's that's what we're here for. I mean,
yeah,
it's
100%.
you're allowed to have an opinion.
Yeah, definitely,
We're allowed to
definitely.
have that at least.
I don't
Jay,
think. Oh, go on.
sorry, go on. Sorry, no, go on. Steve.
No, I was just going to say, like some of the footage that was circulated on YouTube and other platforms years ago with the astronauts finding actual like video camera footage of the astronauts walking through the ruins and things like that. I think that's a load of baloney, to be honest. But yeah, I do think that there are things on both the moon and Mars. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, well, I like it when we're doing this. We're having this discourse, and as somebody else is talking, obviously I can look at the different panels that are up here, and I can see Jamie nodding sagely in the background as somebody's making a comment. I know that he's gearing up for saying something. So go on, Jay, brother. What do you think about this one? Obviously astronauts seeing all sorts of things, and then we're talking about Kydonia Valley, I suppose, aren't we, on Mars for certain structures such as the pyramid and so on. But give us your take on it, please, bud.
It's a mixed bag. The problem is there's so much crap on YouTube and it's shared on Facebook all the time. But to be honest, the image that you've got there now, I would pay £1 million if someone could prove that to me. That was genuine.
Yeah.
I don't have £1 million. It would be monopoly money. I would be astonished if that image was genuine.
To be fair, your monopoly money would probably be worth just as much as that picture, to be fair.
Yeah. And we see YouTube videos of UFOs over the moon. They're very, very simply or very poorly sometimes CGI, or hundreds of objects traveling across the moon. They're not genuine. They're fake videos, or they're bugs on the lens, or there's something else.
Yeah.
I don't. That is the problem. So much nonsense comes through. It muddies the water so much. When something genuine is seen, it's hard to accept it.
Yeah.
Saying that, what we're talking about, aliens coming here and setting up expeditions. Where are they going to go if they have an expedition and they need to set up like a base camp? And I think of this like as almost like if you're going up Everest, you set up a base camp where you prepare and then you go and do what it is you're going to do. They might not be able to do that on the Earth because of bacteria and all these other things, and all of us seeing them, which they might be a bit like Star Trek. They might want to come here and actually not be seen and not interfere with us, like we would if we were going into the Amazon to maybe research a tribe. You might not want to interfere with them too much. So the places where I could see them doing that, though, is either you set up base camp on the moon, which would obviously be well within their capabilities technologically, or our oceans, which again, we see lots of USOs, which again would make sense because humanity doesn't spend an awful lot of time, and they could move in and out of the oceans and never be seen and never be interfered and never be bothered something. And we do see a lot of evidence of USOs and submarines tracking objects traveling a couple hundred knots underwater, which we're not capable of doing. So if there was objects on the moon, I would completely. It's logical for what we think might be going on with these expeditions. Have I ever seen evidence that I'm actually believe or that convinces me? No. I've never really seen anything. Ancient civilizations on Mars, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit.
I have to mirror that sentiment myself. 100%, and it would make sense to, like as you say, logistically. I mean, when the strive for the South Pole, you set up a series of base camps, as you said. If you're tackling K2 on Mount Everest, you set up a base camp. You do it in jumps and leaps. The biggest journeys from wherever you live, flying to the Himalayas. There you go. So there's the jump from a different part of the galaxy, perhaps. If you're looking at it in layman's terms, and then the jump to the next particular camp is just shuttling around. So I suppose it's like puddle jumping with commercial flights, isn't it, from the moon to the Earth, given the technology that they would need to do it in the first place, I suppose. So I could see that as a jumping off point myself. That sort of does
Or if it was
real.
if they were preparing a military invasion, it would be a beachhead.
It would be a beachhead, yeah. It would. Yeah.
Would.
You have a jump point.
I wonder what they call it. Yeah, well, it's like this, if the aliens landed on the moon to use it as a launching point for an invasion, I'm pretty sure the Americans would still be in charge of that bleeding mission, but we won't go into that. Okay, so let's just. This is a favourite one of mine, and I'll bring up a picket for that one. I think I can do that, can't I? Yeah. Can. Okay, so fleets. Again, I suppose this is sort of like airing back a little bit to the OVNI flaps in the 1990s above Mexico City and so on. But there has also been large numbers seen, if you like, squadrons of UFOs and in Europe and so on. It tends to be prevalent in South America usually. Some sort of like low Earth orbit there and that. But it's you, Steve, isn't it? It comes back round to you. The fleets now. What would be the purpose of multiple vehicles, if you like, or multiple craft, flying around in squadrons, if you like? I mean, even if you like hark back to the times of the Second World War and so on, then we would be huge squadrons of bombers going over to Europe, or, excuse me, to do carpet bombing and so on and so forth. But beyond that, when it comes to scientific exploration, would there need to be huge fleets? Is there any kind of necessity for that kind of thing? Why should there, or would there be ostensibly large fleets of UFOs being seen in the skies above us?
Military power, probably the first one. That's what comes to mind first off and foremost, isn't it? It's a show of force, I would say. It's what all armies do, really, isn't it? To show off what they've got, how strong they are, how many they've got, etc. Here we are, be scared, sort of thing. But I'm not sure, and it has to be for that reason, unless it's a group of new ETs that have just found the Earth or found a brochure and let's go to Earth all together as a massive family. But it's I don't think that's going to happen. But me personally, I think it's a show of force. Sort of to say, look at us, we're here. This is what we can do, or it's very militarized. I think like that, definitely. Either that or it's a flock of geese.
Also possible. Space geese.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, no worries. Jay?
I would say there's two possibilities. The show of force thing, I can understand in that I think back to like the Washington invasion, where there's a UFO supposedly seen off the coast, even though it is possible it was a balloon, but I never really quite believe that. And the Americans fired at it for like 3 hours, expending 100,000 rounds of different types of ammunition and things like this. I've always wondered if that was sort of a show of force. The UFO sort of sat there going, you can't actually hurt me. You need to do as you're being told. That is assuming, though, that then any ET is actually in contact with our government for whatever reason that is, which obviously a lot of people do believe that ET is involved secretly in our government, think about Majestic 12 and things like that. So show of force, yeah, maybe. It could just as easily, though, just be that either two things, that either actually traveling across millions of light years, not millions of light years, that would be across galaxies, wouldn't it? But traveling tens or hundreds of light years is actually quite difficult and dangerous. So traveling in numbers is a good idea. We would do that if we were traveling. You mentioned World War II. We put all of our ships in groups because they protected each other. We have fleets that go traveling groups because they protect each other, they look after each other. So it might be an element of that actually there's safety in numbers when traveling vast distances, and it's a good idea. It could be cruise ships. Come and have a look. Look at these wee little monkey things on this planet over here. Aren't they interesting? And it's simply that. It's a bunch of cruise ships coming to visit. We assume. I I think our fears come out and we assume the worst all the time, but actually we have to try to think about what would we do if this was a situation. So we find an island somewhere full of a completely different type of species of human being, or a completely different species of like hominoid sort of thing. What would we do? And the first thing we would do is we would send expeditions scientifically, and then cruise ships would turn up with us binoculars, all looking at the weird thing. It would become a holiday place, or somewhere people visit. And
Could be like that. Yeah.
People think, oh, that sounds silly, but actually, just think of it logically. It's what we would do.
Yeah.
They might not be that different to us. They might be completely different to us. Don't get me wrong, but they might not be that different to us. Or in the way they live and the way the things that interest them. It's like we could just be interested.
The moon could be a massive 5-star galactic hotel.
I like that. I like both of them answers. I just picked up on a couple of things again because that's what I'm here for. So, Steve, saying the show of force thing, and you can relate to that, and I suppose that would depend. No, I guess that's me answering it, isn't it? So the show of force thing. Why would you think that would be necessary, given the level of technology that they would have in the first place? Do you not think that would be possibly enough in its own right to prove to us that they've got power that we haven't, because they can navigate across vast distances in space, and we can't. And according to some people, we can't even leave low Earth orbit.
Yeah.
So why would you think that would be necessary?
That's the first thing that comes to me personally. That's the first thing that comes to mind is like a show of force or look, here we are. But I don't know. It's just like like Jay sort of said earlier. It's almost built into us to sort of think that, if that makes sense. But I don't know. To be honest, it's a tricky one. It is.
It would have to be sort of a do as you're told thing, wouldn't it? It's like that's the only way I could understand it. Is they've told our governments to do something, they're not doing it, so they turn up and go, do as you're told,
possibly,
whatever that might be, or they've come here for a reason. A reason. I mean, there's like
that's the thing.
Sorry, go on.
Cheers. I was just going to say, through complete history, we've had all these cave paintings and petroglyphs and hieroglyphs and everything like that, and everything that we found out from the Anunnaki to everything. Yeah. So they've been coming here all this time for thousands of years, and they still are. So what are they actually doing? If they were going to have some sort of invasion, personally, I think they would have done it by now. So what is the reason for them coming here? That's one of the biggest questions for me anyway, because we've been seeing them for thousands of years, and that's all that, as far as we know, that's all that's been happening. Yeah. There hasn't been any mass like, here we are, come down and shake our hands and all that sort of stuff. There hasn't been really anything like that. There's been snippets with Bob Lazar and Snyder and everyone else, but it's a massive question. It's a massive question. Yeah, and I'd like to know the answer to that. Sorry.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I was tempted to give you a strikeout then, because you mentioned the B word, and the schn word as well. Really.
Oh,
we'll let that one pass, because as a frame of reference, it's
yeah.
Was you gonna add something to that, Jay, before I throw your one at you?
I was just going to say that if there are fleets of ships in orbit, and they are here and it's a message though. The message isn't to us, is it? Because we can't see them. We don't know they're there. The message is to government. It's to the Americans, the Russians, the Chinese. It's anybody with the capability to know they're even there. So in that case, it would have to be a do as you're told sort of message. Unless, like I said, they're here for a purpose. And that purpose might be exercises. It might be actually that, the secret space program thing is true. We have contact with these species. We have relationships with some of them. We're going to talk about Galactic Federation and things like that. And we actually have relationships with these species, and it might be a joint operation.
Venture. Yeah, just like the military, NATO will conduct
We
exercises.
do all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might be a reason. It might be a big bloody chat. They might be arriving for a conference. And again, it sounds silly, but it could be that actually this is a meeting. It's a meeting point. That we're seeing multiple vehicles because it's multiple species.
Yeah.
And they're here for a reason that, it's a chinwag. It's the G7.
Yes. I mean, these cases, the G250, depending upon which you go at. I'll put a photo up in a minute that I think I know what this is personally, and I'm fairly sure people will be able to latch onto it. But the things like this, or photographs like this, are put out there as being evidence of so-called mass UFOs and stuff. I'll stick it up in a sec. But to give you your one, Jake, as it were, you said before, there's a couple of things that makes me think that they don't think they can make the trip with impunity. That's sort of inferred, and I know that it's your comment, and it's a supposition, or something you put forward as an hypothesis. In so much as we've done it in the past, when you got Manifest Destiny, and pilgrims, and obviously the Western settlers traveling across the United States, having to face all sorts of hurdles and various other things that might result in fatalities, in a loss of numbers. So that being said, would it sort of indicate it then that they're not sure how many of them would make it? You'll have heard the theories. I'll sort of validate that and come from that. Where when it comes to traveling great distances, so some of the known, and I say known with inverted commas, ways of traveling would mean that we would have to populate a craft where people could be born on that craft and live their entire lives on that craft, and so on and so forth until they get to the destination.
Seed ships.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
generation ships.
Seed ships, or generation ships. It could be third or fourth generation by the time they reach their destination. So is there possibly that kind of thing going on? And also, I know this is a bit long-winded, saying that they're wanting to come in such a show of force and all that. Are the numbers there to infer because their actual technology isn't as great, or do they fear that they might take losses by having so? Again, I'll do reference to the Second World War, sending over lots of flying fortresses to bomb Hamburg and Berlin, knowing that they're going to take casualties. Just where I'm coming from. What you take on them couple of points?
If that was the case, though, I mean, if there were generation ships, they wouldn't leave. Once they've got here, they'd stay. Because it's took them a long time to get here, and they wouldn't just sort of go, well, let's go to the next planet in another 300 years. They're going to stay here. I could see that ships moving together in formation sort of thing would be useful in case one breaks down. You've got support and you've got help sort of thing, and you can, there's that protection. If they're coming here to invade us, they're going to come in numbers, because even if their technology is advanced, it doesn't matter how advanced you are. If there's only one of you, you can't hold ground, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But the downside of that is their technology, chances are, is going to be even 100 years more advanced than us. They wouldn't need to hold ground, because they would use nanotechnology or something along those lines, that they could infect us all with something we wouldn't even know it was there, and then just turn us off, and we wouldn't even know it had happened. The only way they would come here in numbers to invade is if they wanted a slave population. Basically, if they wanted to actually keep a significant number of us alive and hold ground, in which case they would need numbers. Because, like I said, it doesn't matter how technologically advanced you are. If there's one of you, you can't hold. You can only be in one place at one time. And we could fight back. It's like so that, like I say, logically, the only way invasions to come here as if they want to hold ground, or it's an Independence Day kind of thing,
Yeah.
and they're going to come here and invade because they want to live here.
Mm.
But again, we wouldn't see them coming. Even 100 years ahead of us, we would not see them coming.
Mm.
And I kind of like the comment you make where if they did come across as seed ships, generation ships, then they wouldn't want to leave. They would come here and settle. Well, perhaps that's the purpose of the structures that we are seeing on the moon, or the allegations we're hearing about based on the moon is exactly that. I don't know. I'll show this picture, and we'll see what we think of this. What we think of this one. But this isn't the one. Obviously, there's many more like this. Lots of nice UFOs in a line there.
When was it taken?
This is about 5, 6, 7 years ago, or something like that, I believe. This to me just looks like a time lapse photo of a plane. It just looks like a longer exposure of a plane with the anti-collision light in the middle, and the flashing lights have just been overexposed on the port and starboard wings. To me, it just looks like an aeroplane. It's a longer exposure of an aeroplane.
Yeah, because the towers in the foreground aren't clear at all, but quite fuzzy as well. Yeah, definitely.
We've got lots of other images like that, haven't we? They turn out to just be that bloody Starlink. It's such a ball ache.
Yeah,
ufology and astronomers, all this sort of thing. And also now drones. I know every time we see a UFO, the smart asses, the bunkers go, "It's a drone," but actually,
it's so hard to fly a drone at night time and everything like that. And speeds.
No, but have you seen something like at the end of the Olympics when they do the drone show? They're phenomenal, and they're all pre-programmed. They can do this. They have done drone shows before, and people obviously have been driving past not knowing what it was and have freaked out. Going, what the hell? Because it looks so unnatural. But it is actually just a very, very cool drone show. Mixed with lasers and all sorts they use, don't they, to think. But so sometimes it is just a drone. But not when you see these very, very bright objects traveling above skyscrapers. And I've got one on my channel. I shared a video with one over the Bronx, and somebody went, "It's a drone." But it bloody isn't. It's flying over a 20-story building. It's that bright. It's traveling that speed, and it's traveling across 4, 5, 6 blocks. Why do you think that's what commercially available drone is that? And they've never got an answer.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's usually people who haven't got drones that might make that kind of comment, or flown drones, and don't understand drone technology. I mean, drones were being used as excuses for all sorts of things many years ago, when we were still at the stage of some of the size of the drones that we were using back, especially in like the first Gulf War and such. And people try to use them as what was going on. Oh, that's probably what might have been seen out over, say, for instance, Rendlesham Forest and so on and so forth. It's like we clearly don't understand the aerodynamics or how drones fly and so on and so forth. But it's what we would call it in the paranormal lazy research, really. It's a quick go-to. It's like you could just indifferently cast any kind of question aside by just going, it was missed. What you saw was your own breath, or all that kind of thing. So it's a lot of the time it's used as a flippant cast aside to actually put in any kind of like research in there and try and come up with a more laudable explanation for what might have been seen. Well, here's another photo. I want to see what you guys think of this before we move on to point number 4, as it were. I told you the answers would be good off these two guys. They know what they're talking about. Here we go.
And if we don't, we'll pretend.
Yeah, there you go. We'll just make it up. Now, for me, the what looks like lights shimmering and reflecting off water in the very top of that image makes me think that it's been cropped. It's street lights or something reflecting off water. I'm sort of seeing the lights reflecting off water there.
I'm pointing at the photo as if you can see what I'm pointing at.
Please feel free, brother.
The lights, the orangey lights at the top make that look to me like it's some sort of reflection.
Yeah.
those blurrier bits at the top, and the way that it's V-shaped, and I think that's some sort of reflection off glass or off water, off something.
It doesn't
it's
look
some
right,
sort of
does it?
reflection.
And if you also look
Very
at the very
strange
bottom,
photo. But,
yeah, it is a strange photo, absolutely. But
It goes
if you look
over-
at if you look at the bottom where the buildings are, you can see there's lots of like lights that are like a, you know, are we seeing them? Because to me, I think we're sort of seeing them reflected off something.
Mm-hmm.
It
what if
certainly
it's being
looks
took
like
from inside a
reflections.
car?
Mm.
What if that's lights reflecting on the windscreen? Because by the shape of it as well, and the V shape of it.
Yeah.
If it is glass or something, maybe it's not flat glass.
Also looks like the power lines go behind the lights. So the lights, from what I can see, so that would mean the lights would be a lot closer than what they
Than what
seem.
the power lines are, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Excellent stuff. That's what we like. That's what this is about. A little bit of a doodah. Okay, so maybe I don't know what a
I love a
doodah
bit
is,
of a
by the way.
doodah.
I don't even know what a doodah is. If anything, it's a huge piece of doodah. So 4. Here we go. The sort of like main crux of it, really. We got a couple more. We can dive. We'll dive into them. Any kind of questions you want to throw at us as well later? We might tickle. We might tickle the question area, as it were. But is there an intergalactic war going on in space? Because that is sort of sometimes said. It has been put out there that there are friendly EBE species that are obviously friendly to humanity and trying to look after planet Earth and its inhabitants. And there are other ones which are obviously a much more malevolent, like insidious kind of culture that are trying to undermine that and spread across the universe and so on. And these theories do sort of like go about being bandied about. It's not unknown. It's not alien in ufology for that to be thrown about. Steve, talk to me, brother. What are you thinking?
There could be somewhere, but close to us within our sort of galaxy, I don't think there is at all. I just think there's a lot of UFOs visiting Earth, coming to Earth, doing what they need to do. But there could be a massive war deeper in space. You know, absolutely way out there. Why not? You know, we're here. You know, we are experiencing and seeing all these things. So why not? But something that we're involved with, or I mean, possibly the governments might know. You know, because if we are working with any ETs and things like that, then they obviously possibly know and have told our governments and things like that. Yeah and no. I don't
Wait,
think
sit on the
anything.
fence there, brother.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say, Steve, are you sure that you're
I'm
not
not
sure? Yeah.
I'm not sure. You know, I don't think it's happening directly above us. I know we've got that footage of that rail gun or plasma gun being fired on the STS-86, I think it is,
Yeah.
and possibly some others as well. I'm not sure, but I don't think there's an outright battle going on directly on our doorstep. Further out in space, places where we, you know, can't even dream of. Possibly, yeah. Why not? Why not? Indeed. But on our doorstep, no, I don't think there is. I wish there was, but
Wouldn't
Yeah.
we be in the
Jay.
crosshairs?
that'd be amazing.
Right. So I talk about the Galactic Federation, and
Yeah.
then I mentioned earlier. This is where a lot of these sort of stories come from, and there are oh god, several species, 12 to 40, 100, god, depending on who you talk to,
Hundreds.
there's lots of species.
Yeah.
You've got species like the Draconians that are not so nice, species like Nordics, which are lovely, and it just goes on and on and on. You know, a lot of the evidence, though, for this, and I'm going to say evidence, comes from like remote viewing, and that sort of communication. I would argue that's not evidence. Doesn't mean it's not true, because I've said like remote viewing to me seems it could be very much intertwined with something like quantum entanglement, which we said on the channel. Said I'm going to start doing T-shirts. I'm going to do one. Quantum entanglement. It's fucking witchcraft.
Yeah,
And that's going to be the slogan on the
I'll buy it.
T-shirt.
I'll buy that.
Yeah, I like that myself. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna. That'll be probably my first one actually. I do for the for this channel for Bomb. But it is witchcraft. It shouldn't work. It breaks all of the laws of physics that we know about. Yeah, it breaks all the laws of physics we know about. Information traveling faster than the speed of light shouldn't happen. So could remote viewing or communication like that work? Of course it could. Do I believe that's evidence of something? No. Just because I can logically say that it's possible, doesn't mean I believe it, because I think at the end of the day that's my opinion, and I have to say that it's a belief. I don't have significant evidence for or against my belief. Unfortunately, I think there are way too many people out there that want to feel special, so they say, I'm talking to an actuarian and his name's Jeff.
yeah.
And and they go on the internet and they talk about these things.
Can I just really quickly interrupt? Sorry, Jay.
I should have said no, shouldn't I? No, you can't.
Yeah.
Shut up,
Yeah, you
mate.
should have
It's my
said no.
idea.
That would have been really funny. Actually, no. That's ignorant. No,
Okay.
you
I'm
can't.
still speaking, Stephen.
Like with Derek Okora, is it, for instance? That type of thing as well. It comes under the same,
I nearly spat my beer out when you said Derek Okora. Nice.
But you know where I'm coming from, don't you? It's the same type of
Bullshit, basically. And the
I
thing
mean,
is, it's just
go on,
it is that there is so much nonsense out there, though, that I think it is overlooked. I have spoken to people that do really serious research into remote viewing, and they can actually say that they have evidence of where somebody will remote view something or something, and it's actually doubled up sort of thing. So they actually sort of try to use the scientific principle. He says it doesn't always work. It's very hit and miss. I actually did a video on it. I actually interviewed a guy that has done lots of research. He really, really knows his stuff as well. He's like a walking encyclopedia of UFO and spiritualism and all this sort of thing. A walking dictionary, sorry. So I'm not going to say that guy's wrong or a liar or imagining it or mental, because I don't know enough about the subject. But do I then believe that this sort of thing is being used to speak to aliens and to speak to the Galactic Federation? Unfortunately, there is so much nonsense. It's a bit like what you said, like Derek Okura and psychics. I think actually being a psychic might be possible. I can actually get my head around the scientific way that it could be possible.
Yeah.
The problem is there is so much nonsense, so many tricksters, so many liars, and so many mentally unwell people that think they're psychic but actually just unwell, that it's really difficult to separate the reality from the bullshit.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? That the fraudsters dilute the topic in all of it. The sheer amount of people that make these outlandish claims, they do dilute any kind of serious research. And as a side note kind of thing, nobody collected the reward that the James Randi Foundation set up. Nobody collected that $1 million. So there you go. Think of that what you will.
Yeah.
Think of that what you will.
But if there was a galactic war,
let's go that way for a minute. Let's go with if.
There's no reason to think that would be anything that we would like Steve said, that we'd ever see it. Any galactic war is going to be focused around planets. You're not going to be really fighting in the distant, in the middle of space. Chances are, I don't see any reason why that conflict would ever go anywhere near us. I don't see why we'd ever see it. I don't see why it would ever have anything to do with it. And if we did see it, I think we'd all know about it, because it wouldn't be small. It wouldn't be.
Yeah, that's it. Wars in Star Wars.
Yeah, it won't exactly. But I don't see why any conflict would ever go anywhere near us, and we wouldn't be anything to do with it. And if our governments were in contact with alien species, I'm absolutely certain our government would have enough sense, I hope, to not to let us get anywhere near it. Because I mean, our technological thing, like I say, one spaceship, if it was 1,000 years ahead of us, could come down and decimate our cities if it wanted to, and I'm absolutely certain there's nothing we could do about it.
Yeah.
So
100%.
if there is an intellectual conflict, let's a war going on in space. Let's hope we never get in the middle of it.
I would say this, and it's not so much as a segue. It will appear that at first, people, you'll have to excuse me, but
Here we
especially when it comes to the different species and the EBEs, is there's sort of like a stigma that can surround certain species of, a rather certain breeds of dog, like bull terriers and so on and so forth. And French bulldog. I was saying to the guys earlier, I've got a French bulldog here, and he's a right rough-looking little thing, but you couldn't find a nicer, lovable little dog. He wants to be around people all the time. He's got a brilliant temperament, so on and so forth. Anyway, when it comes to the alien species, I find it interesting that the French bulldog, or the draconians, the reptilians, the insectoids, are the bad guys. The ones that look the worst are the bad guys, and the good guys are, like you say, the Nordics. Like blonde, tall, beautiful looking. Even the women have had sexual relationship with Villas-Boas, and cases like that, where he had sex with this. Not like Captain Kirk, who had sex with a quadruple-breasted woman from the planet Zargon or whatever. But, Villas-Boas had. But the so-called bad guys look evil, and he sort of suits a narrative that we used to in folklore and legend, so I do find that interesting. But good answers there, guys. I enjoyed them. They were good again. See, I told you they were the right fellas.
We should take by our own culture and like humanism that you should never judge a book by its cover at all, ever.
Well, you shouldn't treat. Sorry, Steve. You shouldn't treat some people like books anyway, because books have spines for a start.
Yeah, true, very true. But I'd just like to say quickly that I've just been seeing some of the comments that I do believe that the gods were aliens. So I just want to
very possible, yeah. Ancient theory makes it.
100%.
You remove the word God and put in the word alien or alien species, and to be honest, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I had an argument with a guy that said a lot of aliens were demons, and I was saying, sorry, logically, you're telling me that there's a God in heaven, and that these are demons that he created through whatever, and that they are evil, and your theory makes more sense than mine that they're aliens. But my theory is ridiculous. But God in heaven is logical. Really? I mean, like that we know we exist, and we know that there's hundreds of billions and trillions of planets, and aliens probably do exist somewhere. But it's ridiculous that they're aliens coming here.
Do you know what's making me laugh? Is Jay right has just proved at the point we can end the stream right now. There is a war regarding aliens. It's the battle between ufologists and theologists. I love that fight between people that believe in it. Extraterrestrial biological entities, aliens, and then God. The amount of times I've seen uproars because of that is absolutely fantastic. If he had £1 for every time I saw that, I'd be able to buy one of Jay's t-shirts.
There's a battle between belief and truth as well, and far too many people believe that what they believe is true, with no evidence, or that they believe their evidence is they believe that the Bible is evidence. It isn't. It's not empirical evidence, and that their belief structure is fact. It's not. Unfortunately, it is your belief, and you're entitled to that belief. We're all entitled to our beliefs, but you should remember it's a belief.
Yeah. Well, like the thing is, Jay, right? Is sorry, fella, it's like the thing about his belief usually it works hand in hand with feelings. It works hand in hand with feelings. And the thing about belief and truth is that whilst belief is based around feelings, is that the truth doesn't care about your feelings, so it's irrelevant. And That doesn't go down well. Let's move on to number 5 because I've got a little bit of an addition thing I want to throw in later on because it just for funsies. I don't know how many people will be aware of this one, but I'm going to throw it out there in a little bit. And like I say, if anybody wants to throw us any questions, that's great. They usually don't undertake that particular one, but sometimes we get some kind of interaction. So we'll see how we get on. So number 5, aliens amongst us. You read that right, Steve. I saw your eyebrows twitching for this particular one. Aliens living on planet Earth. What do you think, baby? Do we have aliens amongst? And no mentioning Valiant Thor and people like that. Try and keep it.
Definitely. Walking among us and things like that. Shapeshifters, possibly. I'm not so sure about shapeshifters and actually living side by side as the neighbour on next street sort of thing. But I do believe, like Jay mentioned earlier, USOs. I do believe possibly that there could be bases under the seas, under the oceans and the lakes. Again, there's been evidence, if you like, of craft for hundreds and thousands of years coming out of the lakes and oceans and different lights. Christopher Columbus saw some weird stuff as well. So why not? 100%, definitely. There's that famous image on Google Maps. I think it's just off the coast of California, I think it is. Florida way, possibly. Could be getting confused. California, though, I'm sure.
Complete opposite ends of the continent.
It was
3,000 miles apart.
Oh, God, yeah, of course it is, yeah. California. And
San Diego's a hotspot for UFO activity. Sorry, just big hotspot.
Yeah. But you had them images under the ocean of like a massive opening and then the sort of 5 or 6 columns, which you can't see now. They've sort of edited that out, I think. But yeah, definitely. And Antarctica, yes, love to go there. Check that place out. There's some creepy, weird stuff as well.
And there's obviously the wall. The
massive ice wall. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. This is the most decisive I've ever seen Steve about anything that has ever been asked or put to him on any mystery machines ever. It's like aliens amongst us. Yes. End of. You could do a poster like Uncle Sam, like Steve, like that. Absolutely. Yes, they exist.
Yes.
I love it.
Of course. Oh, yes. Yeah. They've been coming here thousands of years, man. 100%.
J-bone steak. What do you think?
I've never been called that before.
You have now, baby.
T-bone, baby.
Yeah. Logically, you fucking love it. Logically, I would say yes. I mean, I've never seen any real evidence to support it that's believable. Like, I'm sorry, but the Queen's eyes doing that is not proof she's a fucking draconian or a reptilian. It's proof that somebody's got a bit of bad CGI going on, or it's just a bad photo.
There's a lot of American CNN footage and stuff like that of news readers or whatever is awful for that. Sorry,
it's just fake. But aliens among us, I can believe it. Again, if we go back to the logic of it, why would aliens come here? They'd come here to research. They'd come here to learn about us. So a logical step of that is maybe they would, again, if they're technologically advanced enough, they could make themselves potentially look like us and interact with us and learn about our culture. And if that was their objective, completely, you could see that like living amongst. I said about our idea about the Amazonian. If we wanted to go and learn about an Amazonian culture, one of the things people have done is they go and they live with that culture for a couple of years. They learn about them and they come away and they tell everybody else. So the logic of it is, if they've got the technology that they can fake their image to look like us, because I very much doubt they would, or build a probe, an android that looks like us, enough like us that they could move amongst us.
Terminator.
Totally. Yes, the Terminator. That's what they would do. Just less killing, hopefully.
Yeah.
Your claws on your
It
motorbike.
turned out nice, though, didn't it?
Have you seen that meme at the moment? It's Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, and he goes, "I want your clothes, your motorbike, and your jacket." And it turns around and it's Chuck Norris, and it's just a Terminator's head, metal head on the side with a pen stick and using it as a pencil holder. I don't know. Sorry, I saw that yesterday. It really tickled me. But yeah, I mean, coming and living amongst us, learning about, because it's not just observing us, is it? They could come here and observe us from a distant space, but actually, if they're going to learn about our culture and learn what actually makes us tick, what makes us laugh, what makes us, what motivates us, they would have to potentially live amongst us. Do I believe that's actually happening? I've never seen any proof of it, but do I believe it's logical and will make sense? Completely, 100%.
I once saw. I forget what this was on. But you'll be able to find it on YouTube, guys, if you want to look for this. But a guy, he would have to be, living in the UK as well, because I'm sure this is a source of amusement for everybody around the world. And no doubt he's called frigging Dave. But there's a guy who wanted to study goats, so he dressed up as a goat. He stuck like a cycling helmet on with a big long bit at the back, which makes people more twatodynamic. But he's got this big thing on. He's got big extensions on his ass. On his ass, Freudian slip there, on his arms, and he's walking around on all fours, and he's biting at the grass and chomping it and all that kind of thing, just to fit in with goats. So for me, yeah, I'm completely on board with that one. If human be, I mean, that's stupidity of human beings in many aspects, isn't it? But yeah, if you've got to fit in, you've got to fit in. Indefecti, as they say, you've got to make sure that you don't stand out, as it were. So that's what we think. Well, that's what them two think. I'm just letting them two run riot.
We are going to pin you down and make you have an opinion at some point, Dave.
Yeah, and I will give it. I didn't expect any less from you, actually, Jay. So number 6 would be, and this is a cheesy one, but I'm going to throw it out there. So a real War with the Worlds. Now, he sort of alluded to it a little bit. I'm going to spin it back round the other way so Jay can go first on this one, because I don't know what he's going to say at the side of you.
I'm better than you, so I should go first.
There was a little bit of a nod towards it being the case, if it were the case, and they were real War of the World. So a couple of points. One is, what kind of chance would we have militarily? Of course, and I do take on board the fact that we don't know as far as militarily or what type of weapons that they might have or could have. So. But what type of chance would we stand militarily, and how real, as the ban is saying, would the War of the Worlds be? Would we be saved by, like pathogens and microbiological little allies of ours that would do something to give us a H.G. Wells happy ending, if you like? What's your take on that?
I always remember, do you remember the Simpsons episode? This is going to sound a bit random, but I'm getting there. Simpsons episode when they're on board the spaceship and Bart's there and he goes, and this is our greatest invention. We call it Pong. He's like, boop, boop. They're so proud of it. And Bart goes, we had that years ago. This crap. There's no expectation, though, that technology would advance in the same way. They could actually come here and have shit weapons. Yeah. If they're not a particularly violent species, we could actually spank them just because they've got ability to. But that's unlikely. The chances are, if they're, like I said earlier, if they're even 100 years ahead of us, we wouldn't see them coming, and we would have absolutely no chance, because they wouldn't use laser weapons and all this sort of thing. They would use a nanotechnology or a bacterial weapon system, or something like that. We would all get flu and then just die, or we would. The new War of the Worlds with Keanu Reeves, when he released like a cloud of nanites, and all the nanites do. Which is this a technology we're already developing. We're already developing robots that are this small and can do. But all the nanites do is replicate and take matter apart, biological matter apart. And they could release a cloud of nanites that we wouldn't even know are there, that are just programmed to sit in the back of your brain or something. And when they go, that our brains just go pop and we just die. Or we just dissolve. And, these sorts of technologies are actually terrifyingly possible. Which is why every time we develop something new, a new technology, that's amazing. It's capable of doing something amazing. It's also capable of doing something horrific. We have nuclear weapons and nuclear power. Amazing ability to generate vast amounts of electricity, and obviously we can also wipe ourselves out with it. We'd start doing experiments into I don't know, pathogens and this sort of thing, and amazing medical reasons we can do that, but then also horrible illnesses and viruses and weapons. And when we start moving into nanotechnology, it's going to be the same thing. However amazing the technology is capable of doing some amazing things, amazing, brilliant things for the human race, it's also capable of doing some horrific things.
Yeah.
The chances are an alien species would come here, spend time watching us, learning about us, and then if they wanted to wipe us out, they just would, and we wouldn't know. We would just literally. We did a video of this when we really first started our channel, and I kept joking. They just Thanos us. They would just flick a switch, and we'd just all be gone, unless they wanted to enslave us. Then they have to come and they have to wipe out our militaries. But they would do it. They would just turn them off. You know, the technology that they have is probably so far advanced in us we wouldn't even see them coming. At the War of the Worlds thing with the viruses, no, because they'd know about this risk. They would know about pathogens. They wouldn't just turn up here Independence Day style or War of the Worlds style and just start attacking us. They would come and they would learn and they would have a look and they would take samples, maybe cows, and a few humans here and there, and they would do experiments, and then they would come. And again, we wouldn't even see them coming. And that's even if they're only maybe 100 years ahead of us. Never mind if they're 1,000 years ahead of us. They might kill us in ways we've not even thought about.
Yeah, totally.
Or enslave us in ways we haven't thought about.
Yeah.
We could have all just become mind controlled one day. They could come in and they just turn on their little box, and we just all go, "Yes, master," and we're just slaves.
Well, we sort of already have that. It's called the internet. We have that. We have that from our own leaders. Steve, sorry, Jay. What?
TV, mate. Honestly, you see my kids watching YouTube, and you think they were bloody
very cheap babysitter. Steve, same kind of thing thrown at you, buddy. What do you think before we move on to some weirdness and then questions? What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, I don't think we stand a chance. Again, to be honest, I think we're
all going to die.
I think
doomed.
Exactly. Get your bug out, bags.
Come back to me in a second. I've had another thought.
Yeah,
I've had a thought.
Yeah.
No, go on. Go on.
No, Steve.
Oh, okay.
No, your turn.
It's your turn in the barrel.
I think a lot of it has to do with Hollywood as well, with the technology, and got these laser weapons, and they are always hostile and things like that. Yeah. And as Jay said a minute ago, it could be a completely different way we've never even thought of how they would do it. And again, for if they wanted to enslave us and things like that. But it would be epic, wouldn't it? Really, it would be fantastic, but it would be awful at the same time. But I don't think it will happen. I don't. It is something that Hollywood and the media and of the powers are sort of put out there, I think. But yeah, I'd be up for it, definitely. Really would.
For a war
Jay,
with aliens.
What have you got, brother?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, why not?
Generational ships. So if an alien species rocked up and they're on a generational ship, so that means basically a ship that's traveled, took hundreds of years potentially to get it. We could do that today with our current technology. It's not really a matter of technology, it's a matter of resources. If you've got if you put enough effort into it, we could build a ship large enough in our orbit now, and we could toddle off to thing, and we could build domes on it that grow food, and we could travel to another star. In that case, they could rock up here and actually not be that much more technologically advanced than us. In which case, we would have a fight. And if anything humanity is really, really good at, it's kicking ass. And to be honest, I just hope the British are at the front of it, because we have proved many, many times that if there's anything we enjoy more than anything else, it's kicking the shit out of somebody. And we go on holiday and we kick the shit out of people. We set up an empire that was the largest empire the world has ever seen, because we quite like going abroad and kicking the shit out of people.
Go to the pub and do it to your mates.
Yeah, we live on a tiny little island with a population of 60 million people, and we're still the second best or the second largest weapons manufacturer in the world.
Yeah.
Because we really like kicking the shit out of people, apparently, and we're good at it.
Yeah.
So we let the Americans go in with all their tonnage, and we go in with special forces.
Yeah.
And we just so in that case, there could actually be a fight. We could have a rumble.
So go on.
No.
No,
that's my little rant about the British.
I would say that biological warfare would be the way as well, 100%, definitely. That's just my favourite. So.
No, that's.
I think.
Why get your hands dirty? We're already moving towards that now, and we've got to think about it the way we fight conflicts now. We're moving away from boots on the ground. We do it with Americans, and we do it with drones, and we're going to be doing that much more in the future. That we don't want to put our soldiers in harm's way. An alien species, again, like even 50 years, 100 years ahead of us, we probably will never actually see them. We'll see their weapons.
Yeah.
We'll see their drones. We'll see their things. They won't put themselves in harm's way. They'll put something. They'll send something else to put in harm's way.
We're doing that all the time, aren't we? With the over the horizon airstrikes. It's standoff munitions, joint directed attack munitions and stuff. We do that now and have been doing for 30 or so years. So
that's the goal, isn't it? Don't lose soldiers. Which we can see that we were horrified in the last Iraq war. Oh God, I forget the numbers. How many we lost now? It was in the hundreds, though, wasn't it? It was quite, which is terrible. You compare that to one day during World War One, the Battle of the Somme. We lost 50,000 in a day. It's like the way we fight wars in the West now is we don't want to lose any soldiers. Collateral damage is not acceptable. Soldiers' lives, losing a soldier's life is not acceptable.
Health and safety.
Health and safety. We want to kill you still, but we want to kill you at distance.
And trust me, health and safety is still a massive thing. That's why we still wear helmets.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say that if I was to meet an alien, I wouldn't go and attack him. I'd be very, I'm all for peace and stuff like that.
Bend over with your war,
but
you would be getting probed, brother. That's what you'd be doing.
Bring it on.
He would freaking love it, wouldn't he?
He would love it, yeah.
I love how he said that if they come here and they're up for a fight, that it would be epic. It would be short.
It would be so exciting, wouldn't it?
It wouldn't be exciting. I'd be I've got children, mate. I'd be crapping myself.
Yeah, true. Cannon fodder. There you go.
Meat targets.
Like a meerkat. Push the kids out first to see what happens.
Send the kids out as meat targets.
But no. It's
See if they're friendly or not. Send the kid out. Go up to that flying saucer, mate. Just say hello.
Yeah. Youngest first. Make a smaller target.
Bob and weave.
That's it. Yeah, now you see me, now you don't. Yeah.
Now, it has to be said that there's something that went around on the internet a few years ago, and I don't know. I haven't spoke to either Steve or Jay about this, by the way. I sort of did say that I'd be throwing something in later on, but I didn't say what it was, and I'm not sure how many people in the side chat know about this. So it'll be fun to find out, I guess. A few years ago, a USB stick. Now, we know where we're at with this. I think most of us are aware of it, if you like. The USB stick was found in Germany by a guy called Quisto, which contained alleged photographs of extraterrestrial biological entities. You can call them aliens if you want, guys. And pictures taken from, outer space, and also little video segments and stuff. I'm going to show a couple of the pictures and run a couple of the video segments just for funsies, because that's why we're here, and I can't wait for these two to start on them. And we'll take some questions after that, I think, because we're still good for time. So I'll bang this picture up. and see what you think of this. Now, this will be recognisable, I think. This is a USB stick found in Germany near a shopping mall by a guy called Quisto. And this it contained images that sort of looked or sort of like give the I won't say illusion, that's the wrong word, but sort of alluded to the fact that these were taken in the late 1800s or the early 1900s. How they came to be stuck on this USB stick, I don't know. But anyway, they were stuck on this USB stick, and this guy called Quisto found it abandoned when he was in a shopping mall in Steinton, I believe, in Germany, just outside Berlin. And that's one of the images there. Now, what does that look like to you there, Steve?
Black Knight satellite. That's what that looks like to me. 100% from what I can see. I'm just gonna.
I mean, controversial and say the Black Knight satellite's a complete myth.
Yeah,
the top right one looks like very much like a
No,
helicopter.
I'm going to correct that. Sorry, the one famous image of the Black Knight satellite, the most famous one that people always think about.
Yeah,
is a
that's
complete myth.
Yeah.
The actual Black Knight satellite or stories of that satellite go back thousands. You know, do go back a long way. So there might be.
Many hundreds of years actually, don't they?
Yeah. But the one famous image is just a towel. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. The image to the left looks like it could be the Black Knight satellite, and the bottom one as well. But it also looks like a hovercraft, maybe. It could be anything, couldn't it? But from the late 18th to the early 20th century, that's some clear photography, isn't it, for that time, to be honest.
Yeah, well, this is of course, like I say, bearing in mind this is allegedly taken in the late 1800s or the very early 1900s, so it shouldn't be junk left in space because man hadn't been in space by that time, going off what I'm seeing in the side chat. Yeah. So, that is allegedly late 1800s, early 1900s. They're not sure, conveniently, because obviously they don't know what it's been taken on. Just found on the USB flash drive. Jay, what do you reckon?
Is that supposed to be? I assume it's allegedly taken from the Earth in the photo. If it's 1800s, 1900s, that would have to be enormous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hundreds of miles across for us to be able to take a photograph of it. There's a thing about a takeaway. It would have to be massive, which immediately makes me think probably unlikely. But I suppose you could tell from the shadow actually that from the one to the left, that the shadow is pretty enormous as well. Actually,
I don't know.
No. I'm actually aware of this story, and it's a while ago since I read about it, so I'm going to be vague. I'm sorry, but wasn't it pretty much widely debunked as not true? Wasn't the guy that found it a bit of a UFO nut and a bit of a special effects guy?
Overly into it, yeah. I'll put up another couple just because that's why we're here, and it's about having some fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is about having some fun after all. And he's took a couple of pictures of some what you call EVAs. I'll put them up. So I'll just share these, and then I'll run a couple of the videos for funsies because we like a little bit of that. And then if you've got any questions you want to throw at us, guys, then please feel free to do so when I've stopped messing around with all this. There we go. There's a couple of the EV. I thought something like that particular photo was labelled as sacrifice, I think, or something like that. Or it may be another one.
I've seen that before. That reminds me of Star Wars. The little sand people.
Yeah, they do look like Jawas, don't they, a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't look like a photo to me. It looks like a watercolor.
Well, also, maybe it looks like somebody clenching a fist with his thumb on top as well. The bloke on the far right.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely somebody. But I say somebody in Rose, isn't it? Something. Alien species. I'm not so sure.
I'll show you another one where you can sort of like see this guy like
it's a watercolor.
Frontal, as it were. Full frontal picture. Let's do a
I'm
full
shocked,
frontal of
Dave,
this
but not
geese.
surprised.
Yeah, true enough.
Come to this. That's creepy, isn't it?
At least that looks more like a photo than the last one. They're not symmetrical, are they? The ugly buggers. Yeah, what ugly motherfucker.
Yeah. You've got a face for radio.
Yeah.
When are these supposed to be from? Again, the same sort of time, or?
Yeah, these are all from the same time period. These were all found on the same USB stick.
But like
Allegedly,
African,
again, late 1800s, early 1900s.
could be, you know, like the African masks, witch doctor masks, things like that.
Oh, yeah,
Possibly.
yeah.
Very thin person, indeed. But why would they be holding themselves like our monks do, as well? If that makes sense.
It does.
Same posture.
Right. On Red Dwarf, and they said he had a head like he'd been trapped in. It's like his head been trapped in a condom making machine.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, they're dead, Dave. Everyone's dead, Dave. Everybody's dead, Dave.
Yeah, I appreciate you sending me that, actually. Right, I'll play. Wait, actually, I'm gonna get this right, Dave. Come on, you can do it. You've been messing around with StreamYard for long enough. You can do it. All right, so let's go with this one. I'll share this one. There we go. This is another video that was like this was found on the
This
USB
is the one
stick.
I remember.
Yeah,
I remember this one.
This will show you the level of cheese that we're dealing with, really. I think.
Oh, wow.
I'll run it one more time and then run. I remember this is for funsies. We're not trying to put this forward as being anything other than that. Okay. Some people say interesting. I don't know what I would say. And let's.
It's very well done, particularly for the time period. Actually, for the time period, it's pretty good. But it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll play a couple more, and then we'll. And they say there's been no such thing as an alien war.
Fireball XL5.
Yeah. One more time. Okay, I'll get rid of that one and I'll play two more and then we'll move on to taking questions. Should you people in the side chat have any questions before these guys nail me out on about what I think about it, which I've been trying to avoid all night. This is brilliant. This is brilliant, this one, yeah.
I'm not sure. It's Flash Gordon from the 70s. It's not even that level of ability.
I'm not sure if this isn't my favourite one. I actually almost urinated a little when I first saw this one.
It's like a flying turtle, but backward.
Laughing so much.
Mate, it's Flash Gordon. The flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz were more believable.
It is absolutely that. Yeah.
I love the sound effects. Would you get
similar
sound from a silent movie?
Supposedly the machine, isn't it? It's
what you've also got to bear in mind is, well, we've got to bear two things in mind. Not only is it bullshit, but also that it isn't filmed by humans. It's filmed by aliens. Is that what's supposed to be put forward? And for some reason, although they've got the technology to fly across vast distances in space, they make shite cameras with really clickety reels and mechanisms on them or whatever. But one more.
Bullshit.
I'm sticking with the bullshit one. Yeah. And last one. I think, is this Earth rising taken from the moon, but allegedly in the, like I said, no, I don't think it is. Oh, is this like one of the moons of Mars rising or something? It's something along them lines, anyway. I'll give it one more that because it's not as. I almost said it's not as good as the others.
It's more believable than the other two.
True enough.
he should have stuck with these and kept it simpler rather than bad space.
Yeah, but, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if the perpetrator was trying to blag a generation of ufologists and space buffs, interesting, but utter
Yeah,
shite.
I'm not saying anything.
It's amazing, and this is what people on YouTube really need to remember. And when we're looking at this stuff, people say, "Why would somebody fake it?" I don't understand. I know why do people fake these things, but they do all the time. Sometimes it's because they just want to show off. Look what I can do. Sometimes it's they believe something so much that they actually will fake evidence to try and convince others that they believe that this is true.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's just because they're mental.
Yeah, you can't ignore the fact that some people are just completely bonkers.
It's like they enjoy tricking people.
Yeah,
That's the thing as well.
You know, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And in many cases, people just like to validate not just their opinion, but their own belief system, and they can't sort of do it externally with external stimuli or external evidence, so they will make it themselves in an egotistical, almost narcissistical kind of way, which I find fascinating.
I find it fascinating. But it's like it's this way, like where magicians come from. They like tricking people. They like knowing something you don't know, and that's sometimes what a lot of this is. It's that same sort of part of your head that these people they just like tricking people. Yeah, and it's and they'll spend hours, hundreds of hours sometimes, doing these videos and creating these videos to trick us.
Well, it's like the Skinny Bob video, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
that's cost somebody a fortune and took a long time. If you're assuming it's fake.
There's a skill set gone behind making that a composition.
Multiple techniques, and also I know a little bit about special effects, not as much as I'm sure you guys know about cameras and things, but a little bit about special. And I'm spotting 3 or 4 different sci-fi special effect techniques in the Skinny Bob video, which is why I was thinking if it is fake, I think it's probably CIA funded fake. It's too well funded. It's too well done in lots of ways to be just somebody in their basement.
Very well done. Oh God, yeah, lots of money.
Or it's genuine.
Also... Could be.
Okay, well, we're sort of about that time. Is there any questions that anybody would like to throw to us? I'll quickly go back to the comment section. We'll give you a few minutes if you want to throw any at us. It's like I say, it's been a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing for funsies, so feel free to take on board the fact that it is for fun. So have some fun. Any questions you want to throw at us? Then please stick them in.
I was going to actually make a quick point. Actually, I thought of earlier. We were talking about alien species potentially visiting us as well. The one thing we got to remember is we, as a human species, have lots of different agendas and lots of different types of people, lots of different cultures, lots of things within our species. People always seem to think, well, the Draconians are all evil, and the whatever else are all lovely and kind with it. Isn't that? You might meet a lovely, fluffy Draconian one day, and you might meet a Draconian that just wants to bend her over, rape you, and murder you the next day.
which is Steve's favourite kind, by the way.
He loves those. We have good people and bad people and nice people and grumpy people and people with different agendas and things. And hey, there's no reason to think that if we met an alien species, it wouldn't be exactly the same.
Well, I mean, anybody who remembers V, the original series from the 80s, and I forget the name of the particular character, but they're reptilians. Okay, they're wearing human skin, just like the Queen, But they're reptilians. And there's a particular one, I forget his name, but he's a good guy.
Freddy Krueger.
He did. It was played by Robert Englund. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
And he was a good guy. So that just proves Jay's point.
He had a little green baby, didn't he? Did he have a
baby? Did have a little bit,
that series was so good, and the special effects were brilliant for its time.
I thought it was. I he had a thing for Diana. If I'm honest. Yeah, he had a thing for Diana because she was evil, but but sort of sexy and sultry at the
Was
same
quite
time.
sexy.
So I did like Diana. Yeah,
I've
gotta
never
admit.
seen it.
The
Sorry.
first series was phenomenal. The second series was so good, but the first series was phenomenal.
Yeah, the second series was borderline utter dross. Really,
I don't really remember the second series because I know it got a bit silly. But
and they did do I think was it the Ultimate Battle, the final battle, which were like 2 hour long episodes. I think it was in a trilogy kind of
Wow.
to sort of like. Steve, if you've not seen it, it might be worth a look. It might be worth ignoring, although I think you'll be able to get on it a little bit. I would go with
Yeah, I'm
ignoring
looking
it.
for that.
It was good for the. It was good for the
don't watch the
80s.
remake.
X-Files,
They did a
that's where it
remake,
needs
yeah.
to be.
They did a remake a few years ago of and it wasn't very good.
I never saw that, and I'm sort of thankful for that
Bit
because
boring.
I did see the remake of Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica, and I'm not sexist in any kind of way, but you know, when they replaced Starbuck with a theme, why not? I mean, don't get me wrong, why not?
Yeah, she was amazing.
You know, it was like over the top kind of thing with a cigar and all that lot, and it sort of like harked back to was it called Dirk Benedict, the actor?
Yeah.
His character during the A-Team, and you know,
Yeah.
even when he was on Battlestar Galactica with a cigar, it's like, fine, have a female Starbuck, but don't she don't have to take on all the mannerisms. She can be her own character.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong
She
with
did-
her being her own character. Do you know what
She
I mean?
did develop, to be fair, in the series. But
Yeah,
I loved
yeah.
the mini series. I loved the little 2 or 3 hour first bit of Battlestar Galactica. The you know, the mini series they did.
Yeah.
That was brilliant telly. And when that with the big side the sexy blonde Cylon, and she was like
Yeah.
cooing the baby at the start, and
Yeah,
she's like,
yeah.
what is it? And then she snaps the baby's neck.
No.
Just to sort of see what
Yeah,
would
in the
happen, sort of
pram.
thing.
Yeah,
And
when
I
it
go,
was
"Wow."
the pram, yeah.
And then just sort of walks off. And she's not evil. She just was thinking,
Interesting.
very delicate, isn't it? It's like,
culture.
oh, how delicate is
Yeah.
that?
Curious.
off.
Curious,
Yeah.
yeah.
Different culture.
And then
Isn't it?
you see the mother screaming, oh my God, my baby.
Wow.
And you're watching that going, okay, well, this isn't going to be the normal sort of telly, is it? It's just like, that's different. But then,
Well.
to be honest, the series got a bit boring as it went on.
Yeah,
Got a bit-
it's sort of like
Buck
Well,
Rogers for me.
somebody say it again.
Buck Rogers.
Supposed to be making a remake, mate. They're supposed to
Yeah, you
be.
see, that's when
Have
they,
they really?
that's when they ruin it usually, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's up? It's like,
Yeah.
there's
Oh,
he
fantastic.
were pretty cool. He were pretty
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
did like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I found it
There was a sexy chick in that as well. It's always a sexy chick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
she had a nice
forget
one
her
as well.
I
name.
can't remember her name, but oh my God.
Was it
I've watched
Wilma?
that show. I don't know, but
Wilma
do you know the
Deering.
thing? You always know the good shows is because the spaceships are cool.
Uh-huh.
Battlestar Galactica, the Vipers are cool.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
Buck
I
Rogers,
like,
the
I like
fighters
the
are
Cylon ships
cool.
as well, though. To be fair, I think the Cylon ships look good.
Yeah, they're alright. They're like flying saucers.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I love those shows. Have we got any interesting questions?
We haven't had a single question.
Have we not had a
It's
single
absolute-
question? Right, who's in
it's
chat? Let me have a look.
It's absolutely no. Trust me, we haven't got a single question. It's absolutely shattering. This is a first, not a single one. Brilliant.
We've covered
We get off
everything.
dead easy. Pardon?
We covered everything. It's just
Yeah,
it's
we
done.
nailed it. We
We've
nailed
convinced
it.
We
everybody.
haven't had Dave's thoughts yet.
Oh yeah,
Okay, in what particular aspect? Give it me.
all of it.
Everything that, yeah, all of it.
Well, I think, you know, I think there's a lot to be said for taking on board the theory of the B and C chips over 10,000 years ago that arrived at planet Earth, and in that sense, an alien invasion, if you look at it from that perspective, an alien invasion has already sort of taken place, although now we would be, if you like, naturalized, and through generations, obviously, we would
We're
be
the alien.
classed as an indigenous population, whereas in fact we are actually the alien. Now, I'm not saying that I completely believe that, because I don't, but I think it's an interesting theory. There is so many other things within our culture that sort of lend credence to that as well, and I don't just mean in a biblical and religious sense. Just when you look at Darwinism and evolutionism and things like that, and the way so we don't fit into natural evolution. We don't fit in with. I mean, and this is a little bit crass to almost say this, but if, for instance, a snake, and I don't know, bear with me with this, a snake wanted to fly for whatever reason, it would grow wings, it would evolve, or it would grow flaps or whatever, but it would evolve to do that. We don't, we and I know I'm aware of the development of the human brain and communication and everything, and sociological structure which enables us to do these kind of things. But we make hollow metal tubes with wings on to fly. If you want to fly, we don't evolve to do things. So I think there's a possibility that might be the case. Going back to a couple of the others, I think we would get our asses absolutely handed to us on a plate if we were invaded by an alien race or a mixture of alien races. We would be absolutely annihilated. And I also sort of agree with what you said earlier, Jay, about possibly we'd put up a fight if we could. If the weapons that were employed to destroy us were ones that we could relate to and ones that wouldn't just evaporate us completely, like the Death Star destroying the planet or whatever. I know it's a bit grandiose and dramatic, that. But if it came to like a confrontation and a war in a traditional sense, traditional warfare, then I think we would put up a fight. But I think we get absolutely smashed. Do I think there's one going on? I think a lot of people like watching sci-fi shows. They like the romance, and they like the like the drama of what they see, what they see in these. The excitement, exactly. So because of that, it's nice to think. Weirdly, it's nice to think. I'm sure these people might think that. But how are you doing, buddy? Thanks for that, by the way, Riley. Hope you're well. But I think it's not so much to suit a narrative, but they enjoy the idealism of it. So it's sort of like propagated because of that. Do I think there's actually one going on? Is there an intergalactic war going on? I doubt it. I think we would see some kind of evidence of that. Something would have happened by now. We would have either been completely destroyed. It would have happened a long time ago, like you say, Steve. We wouldn't even be here to have this conversation, which would be massively unfortunate, because then would spaghetti bolognese have ever been invented, which is one of my concerns, and where would pastafarians be? I think we should also bear that in mind. But other than that, see, I like that. Get the colander on your head and all that kind of thing. But I think we get our asses handed to us if we did ever get invaded. And I just sort of think that, of course, we can't, superimpose our mindset upon a possible civilization or species that we don't have any evidence of or understand, strictly speaking, to just assume that they would be massively omnipotent or malevolent. They could turn up and be benign. But that being said, if you look across the world, and you see the way that so-called intelligent, sentient beings act with one another, the keepers of the planet, we're actually kind of shitty to one another, really, aren't we? We will use all sorts of discriminatory excuses to be shitty to one another, whether it's religion, whether it's colour, whether it's creed, whether it's sexuality. We'll use so many biases to be shitty to one another, and as an excuse to be shitty to one another. So I could see a bunch of arseholes travelling vast distances across space to come and kick our teeth in. And by the same token, I could also see them coming over and being completely cool. Do I think it's happening? I don't know.
Get in. It's the same as us, really, isn't it? It's fascinating.
They do come to kick our teeth in. We'll find out really quickly. They will be like, "What's that?"
You see, I think that would happen as well. Yeah, I think that would happen as well.
Pretty light in the sky.
Yeah. That's it. Don't look at the
Look
light.
and cover.
But I
Yeah,
think,
exactly.
yeah. I think though that if they were a threat, we would have seen something of it by now. More so than abductions and cattle mutilations and things like that. Definitely, 100%.
Yes, that's the cattle mutilation thing. I mean, obviously, all that kind of thing sort of does lend itself towards the just the general sort of consensus of an interest in what's going on in our planet.
Mm.
But do you not think that they would have like sort of like clicked on that? I mean, with the technology, you would have. I want to word this correctly. You would sort of assume that with the technology that they could potentially have, that they would only need one cow to conduct all the possible
Yeah.
tests. I mean, I've seen Star Trek, dude. I've seen a tricorder. You know what I mean? And that'll tell you everything you ever want to know.
Yeah.
Every single thing you could possibly know. I mean, how good
Yeah.
are they? So you would sort of like assume that an alien civilization would have the technology to just go
Yeah.
like that,
That's
scan
it.
something and say, "Aha!"
Great
or
sound
whatever.
effect.
Yeah, it's you would think it was pretty close, that wasn't it?
It was.
You would think they'd be able to put that to keep nicking cows from people and then like
Yeah.
just ripping the arseholes out of these things. It just
We're destroying the planet for cows, though. I mean, we're cutting down the
True.
rainforests
true.
Yeah.
for cows so that we can eat them. They might be coming going, why are they killing themselves over this bloody four-legged fat thing? So they might become. They must be testing. No, we don't get it.
Burgers are
Because
so
what you should
good.
do is stop ripping its arsehole out, slice its butt off instead, and fry it, and taste it, and then you'd understand why we slaughter ourselves over it.
That's
But
it.
we are literally destroying the planet over cows, and it
Yeah.
makes no sense.
And never mind
Yeah.
a war between like an intergalactic war. Yeah, again, there's Jay
Maybe
trying to
that's
cause
it.
a war between the
Maybe-
vegetarians and the meat eaters. He's
That's
off on
it.
a rant.
That's the answer,
Hey.
isn't it? The governments are we are destroying the planet for cows and beef and things like that. Maybe that's
Yeah.
why we're doing it, for the aliens.
Are you
But-
blaming the cow? Are you blaming the cows for an alien invasion,
well,
Steve?
The Indians
blame the aliens on the cows. I'm not
worship the
sure.
cows, don't they? So, and
Hindus,
we sort
yeah.
of worship the cows for
We worship
unfortunately,
McDonald's.
their taste and leather. So yeah, it could be a very possible outcome or whatever, not outcome, theory.
And I love steak. I don't want to die over it.
I do,
I
yeah.
freaking love steak. It's awesome.
That's it. Would you
But,
defend your planet for a boiger? That's what we're
Right,
going
yeah,
to
exactly. But I also like breathing.
Alien
So
burgers,
stop
right, we was
cutting the
talking about
pig
a couple of weeks
rainforest
ago.
down.
So before we give our sort of like roundup and before we disappear, guys, if you anybody in the side chat want to put what they think about what we've said, and remember that all this has been just like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, just to have a little bit of fun because I'm assuming it's going to be a little bit more heavy next week, a little bit more.
There won't be many jokes.
Yes, it's a bit irreverent, and of course we are like cognizant of the fact that there does need to be obviously an element of respect regarding the subject matter that we'll be discussing. So this is funsies, okay? So given that being the case, it's quickly type in the chat what you think about what we've talked about tonight. We'll give it a roundup and then we'll get out your face for the night, and we'll give next week on a brief history and mystery for something that's going to be very. I'm hoping it's not massively contentious and more it's just educational. But I don't think that's going to be the case given the look on his face.
I've already done a series on 9/11, and I will share it over the next couple of weeks because there's a load of myths and things about. There's so many stories about the series that are just not true, like Rumsfeld and the trillions of dollars missing and things like this that are not true. How do we prove that the crop circles were done by aliens? That's interesting.
No.
First of all, let's ask why. I saw a crop circle once, and I wish I was doing this channel now because I would have stopped and gone and looked at it. And instead, I drove past it and went, "Oh, it's a crop circle." I was off the motorway though, so I couldn't easily stop. It was not like I could just like pull over and walk over to it. I was actually on a motorway, but I wish I'd done something about it. Lots of people have done lots of research on crop circles, haven't they? And they're still even now firm believers that this was some sort of communication attempt. What do you guys think? Because I know
still could be. I mean, there's some that appear within hours literally a couple of hours, and they are phenomenal. And there's no way that we could have done it.
And they're bent rather than broken, and
Of course, yeah. Very much
EM
so.
readings and things like this, and
Yeah.
Do you remember the? I think it was the mid 1990s or the early 1990s. I forget now. So you'll have to forgive me for this, but where there is video footage where there's a farmer which is got the tractor. He's got the tractor out and he's doing his crops or whatever. And when I say crops, I mean legal crops, by the way, everybody, before you start. But he's doing his crops. You know, he's having a grow. He's got a bit of a grow on, you know, so he's doing a crop.
nobody else thought illegal crops. Everyone else was thinking barley and things like that.
He's
illegal crops.
He's doing it. He's doing his. Leave it. He's doing his crops, and
My crops.
and the silver ball comes down, or rather, it comes away from a crop circle that suddenly materialised in the. Okay, I saw that question. In the field, it comes across, flies across on the tractor. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a little silver ball. And I found that an interesting video. It was doing the rounds for quite a while back in the day.
I think it's a perfect example as well here, isn't it? What we were talking about earlier, that you've got a really interesting, potentially core, that 5% of these things might be actually something really interesting, but then you've got so much flipping nonsense that goes on. There's so much fake things and idiots with boards and stuff that it waters it all down. And also, I'm absolutely certain as well, governments and misinformation and all this sort of thing. As soon as something like this happens, the CIA and other bodies are going, right, okay, some alien just happened. We have to make sure we almost like take the mick out of it or make a joke out of it so that the bulk of the population think it's silly. And I keep saying this thing, that's their goal. Anything like this was to happen, they have to just make sure that the bulk of the population think it's silly and they win. Yeah, that's it. And this and crop circles could be could be a really good example of that, to be honest. How long do you reckon we'll last as a civilization? Others?
Steve, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, cheers.
I agree with that. Go on, Steve.
We're very capable of destroying ourselves within the next 100 or even couple of 100 years.
Where's the doomsday clock at the minute now? Is it less than 2 minutes to midnight?
It is.
Is it 2 minutes to midnight? Okay.
Yeah, or less. It's the highest it's ever been anyway at present time. Very much capable. I mean, we've got the Hadron Collider place, smashing particles and things like that together. Wars, flipping climate change in a sense could wipe us out before, possibly. That's why I was like like that. But quite easily we could do it. If the people that are left in charge of the world at the moment, and we're still getting people like that, so on and so forth in time, then not very long at all, I don't think. We all need to come together as one, but we never will, unfortunately.
I love how you think that the Hadron Collider is more of a risk to our civilization than
I had noticed that if it was on. I blame everything on the Hadron Collider. It's like lovely. I like where we went with that.
It might make a black hole. I think climate change is more of a risk. I think the next 50 to 100 years are a massive threat. Because we're either going to hit a tipping point with climate change and man-made damage to the ecosystem, where we could see. I don't think it'll necessarily wipe humanity out, but it could wipe 90% of us out. And we could trigger a new ice age. We could trigger.
We're overdue ice age, aren't we? By a couple of 100,000 years at least.
We're getting we're actually technically still in an ice age. Technically, because there are periods where there isn't any ice in the North and South Pole within the Earth's ice. So we're actually in an ice age. We are going into a cooler period. There, we should be going into a cooler period, but we're not. The last ice maximus was only about 12,000 years ago. So at the end of the Younger Dryas event. where the ice was as far down as northern central Britain and what have you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're supposed to be going into a
Sutherland.
cooler period, and we're not. We're still warming, and we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're at a tipping point, and I actually think possibly the next 50 years, we either need to stop polluting.
Yeah.
And whether you actually, I was going to make this argument. We were going to do climate change as a video, and I was going to say
Yeah,
make
we
the
were.
argument actually that whether you believe climate change is man-made or not actually doesn't make a difference on the things we need to do, because oil is running out.
Yeah.
So we need to switch to electric. We just
Yeah.
do. Polluting, anybody surely must know that polluting our oceans is bad. And we are actually pumping CO2 into the atmosphere that is being absorbed by the oceans and making the oceans more acidic, which is killing the coral and killing fish and killing ourselves. And if we kill the ocean, we die really quickly as a species, as a planet. So anybody know polluting, bad. We need to stop doing that as well. And the rainforests is where we get all our oxygen from, or most of it. I know a lot of it does come from the oceans, but a lot of it comes from so if you like breathing, we need to stop cutting trees down. So whether you believe in man-made climate change or not actually doesn't change what we need to do. We still need to switch to electric cars. We still need to stop polluting, and we still need to stop cutting trees down.
Yeah.
And we need to look after our oceans.
Yeah.
And if we don't start doing that in the next 50 years, we are fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. I've read somewhere that. Sorry, Dave.
Go on, Steve.
Cheers, buddy. That we started going into the oil reserves back in the late 90s or mid to late 90s anyway. So that's quite a scary prospect.
Saudi Arabia changes their estimations how much oil they've got every year, and it always stays about the same. So it's like 20 million or 20 trillion barrels.
Yeah, no, it's that, yeah.
Still 20 trillion, is it? Yes, we found some more. Oh, did you? That's interesting. That's how you keep. Every time you seem to want to adjust the price, you seem to either find a little bit less or a little bit more. So to keep the price, that's really. I suspect you're lying, but maybe I'm just being cynical.
No. I mean, I think it's very valid, isn't it? It's again, I never want to get too wrapped up in theology, but you do notice a change in the way that religions are put across. They almost, or at least Christianity, will change or morph to suit the way that society is being run, or to instigate change into almost like I want to be careful here because this could really, but to keep up with the times. Yeah. I was just thinking I'll drop about 1,000 subs after this, but because it's essential, because it is sort of like propagated by man. Even if it is the word of God, it's still propagated by man. As far as how long do I think we've got left? I think we're in a very dangerous place at the moment. And my concern, I don't want to come across as like a glum doomsday kind of guy, but one of us out of the three of us has got to do it, so it may as well be me. For me, I'm more concerned about where we are politically.
Yeah, I get that.
I think that as far as imminent problem, that's more likely to see us off than climate change. I'm not saying climate change will, because we know the effect that we're having, and that things do need to be done. And there is people that say that it's already sort of too late. So it's about minimising the damage that's done rather than trying to, you can only do so much about it anyway.
That is true. We are minimising there. But I'll tell you what, that as a positive thing, before I talk about a massive negative on the political you're talking about, technologically speaking, humanity is amazing at doing things when either you can make money out of it or you've got no choice. And we're in that period at the moment where people like Elon Musk are going to be making money, but hopefully the things they're going to achieve is because we've got no choice. And
I mean, bank accounts are the mother of invention, aren't they?
Most definitely. But also, when we have problems that could actually kill us all, we're really good at thinking of clever ways of dealing with it. And we're seeing that. We're seeing new solar panels. We're seeing new battery technology all the time. And a big push that we're going into space is because we need resources. And that was going to be my point now, that if we've got enough resources, we're a very peaceful, loving people. humanity is very lovely when we've got a full belly and we've got Amazon and we've got TV, and that's why in the West we haven't had a war in Britain, or we haven't fought a conflict in Britain for nearly 400 years.
Yeah,
because we've had the resources, we've had no reason to internally fight with each other. In the West, we haven't had a war since World War II because we're all content. With enough resources, the world could be content. With enough resources, we could live very comfortably in harmony with nature.
Yeah.
In the next 50 years, though, we're going to have to change the way we live dramatically.
Yeah.
I have this theory, actually. We should build massive cities in the Sahara Desert and fill it with sort of solar panels. I have all air conditioning and stuff, obviously, because it's quite warm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We need to stop living where crops can grow. We need to live where nothing grows and let nature retake like the temperate areas and actually have farmland and things. So we should billions of us need to live in the Sahara Desert.
Of course, necessity has steered our evolution as a culture and as a society. To stay near water courses, obviously, and to profligate, like say, temperate areas for the most part. Obviously,
we don't need to do that anymore. Technology is getting to a point we don't need to do that anymore.
So it's like more and more regions of biodiversity are dying out, and that is just the top of it. It's at the bottom of it. It's not just about the fact, because I don't think it's down to overpopulation per se. It's management and attitude has been the problem. And
we could all live in Texas if we want to. I could see a future. The only future we're going to have is if we basically live in mega cities, where there are billions of us living in quite small pockets, and then we let nature go back into this. All of us, this thing about us having, it does shrimp definitely. All of us about having a nice house with a big garden and having quite a large footprint for actual how big we are is irrelevant. We could live in tower blocks where you have 1,000 people living in a tower block with a footprint roughly the same size as my house now, or 2 or 3 houses. We need to live in that sort of, mega city sort of thing and let nature go back into the, to reclaim some of the land that we currently concrete over.
Get down.
You're only talking about a generation or two, because you've just got to look at places like using this as an extreme example, of course, but like Chernobyl, and look at the way that the land has started to claim back urban areas and so on and so forth. So it wouldn't take a massive amount of time to start to for Mother Nature to start to take over. And I think this might be a little bit of it's not so much a callous statement, but a little bit out there. I'm not sure people like it, but I'll say it anyway. Is we judge what's going on because of what we are and how we relate ourselves to our purpose on the planet. And I'll go into that a little bit further, in so much as the Earth will continue after we've gone. Now we want to save ourselves, and we want to save whatever we can possibly, save for those that follow us, for generations to come, and so on and so forth. But really, the planet would be fine if human beings weren't around, quite frankly. And I'm sure
quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine when we've gone. It'll go through various changes, and
like
other things will take control. Other things will come to pass. Long after we've gone. We human beings are the cancer on the face of the planet. That is just, it's not nice to know that as being a human being. Allegedly, I'm a human being, but it's not nice to know that as a human. But it is the truth. We fuck everything up. We can't help ourselves. We're greedy. We're we're mostly greedy. We're self-centered. We're self-gratifying. It's just the way it is. When power and when you have control, it's all about control, and control has led to so many different things. It's led to the consumption of fossil fuels because of technology being pushed forward. I mean, at the end of the day, all these technological advances haven't come off the back of being delivered out there free. It's not like we've had any kind of like dystopian revolution where we've had free electric for everybody, Tesla, free power for everybody, because that was like chopped out right before he could get anywhere. I mean, he died a pauper, and the FBI stole all his material allegedly. Isn't that correct? So
Yeah,
it's like there wasn't.
just after they confiscated everything.
Yeah, and it's like, so it's not like we couldn't do it. It's we don't want to do it because we want money. And when I say we, it's not the royal we. You know, I'm speaking generically for people in positions of power and as a race and as a society. We want control. We want power. And unfortunately, that's our undoing. We're the problem, not the ozone, not the sea levels, not the melting. We are the problem, and that's the issue. And I don't think that's going to get fixed anytime soon. Personally.
Genuine thing as well. That we were talking about cows earlier. They reckon somebody did some clever maths, and they reckon if we stopped using cars tomorrow, it would take about 90 to 100 years to reverse the climate change that humanity has caused. If we got rid of all of the cows tomorrow, it would take 30 years for it to be reversed. How insane is that? You know, it's just nuts. To go back to the point, I can't remember who it was, made a little while ago, Bill Gates buying lots of farmland.
Yeah, it was Riley.
I wouldn't worry about Bill Gates buying farmland. You want to look at who's buying the water and water supplies.
Yes, Nestle.
Fresh water supplies all over the world are dwindling. Most of the world isn't like Britain, that has that rains 90% of the time. Most of the populated areas live on coastland. And friend of the channel, Stormy, they've been massive forest fires in California, 100 degrees, you know, like horrific weather. And I'm there to talking to him, doing a video with him, and I'm like, it hasn't stopped raining here for 4 days. It's like, it's, you know, it's not like most of the world isn't like that. We have water. Honestly, we could be the Middle East of the future in 30, 40 years' time, because we could just be filling up tankers and sending fresh water all over the world. You know, it's like, it's that bad. So don't worry about who's got the farmland. Worry about who's got the water.
Yeah.
Because that is the dream. You remember that James Bond movie a few years ago, Quantum of Solace? That was the plot of the movie. It was basically that the evil Spectre were buying. They found a load of aquifers and they were buying the land because they didn't care about the land. They cared about the water under it, and they realised they can control it. That's what we need to worry about in the next 30 to 50 years: fresh water.
Do see where he's going. What with the point that he's making, though, with the last one in the side chat. I'll highlight it because I sort of we'll give it another couple of minutes, but it's a relevant point. I see where he's going with it.
Mr. Beast.
Yeah. Well, you know,
we need to plant trees. I said a few years ago, right, that one of the things our government could have done was every time they want to build a new house, because we've built hundreds of thousands of houses in the last few years. If you want to build a house over a certain value, it has to have a solar panel on the roof. And if you want to dig up a tree to build a house, you have to plant 100. And they could have just put that law 50 years ago. And they could have basically reforested Scotland, which we deforested during, the Edwardian times and things, to build the big galleons and big ships and things. We cut that. Britain used to be a massive forest. We cut most of it down. We could reforest Scotland easily. Nobody lives there. There's only like 4 people live there, and they're all drunk. So I mean, it's they wouldn't even notice. Sorry. Oh. So anyway, God, I don't think I've got any Scottish subscribers, but I won't have in a minute anyway. But
they'll probably agree with you, mate.
Our northern brothers.
Yeah, we could have done this though 30 years ago, 20 years ago. The government could do it tomorrow. Say, yes, if you want to build houses, we'll give you tax breaks. But if you want to dig up a tree, that's fine, but you will plant 100. And really plant 100 as well. Not like some of these like carbon things where they say, but we did this and we just, and it's really just moving bloody numbers around. I mean, literally, I want to see somebody digging a hole and planting a pig in tree.
You want to see roots in the ground. That's what you want to see. You want to see the result rather than the false promises.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? Because you're getting into administration, which means that there's management, which means there's somebody in a position of power, which means there's a good chance that somebody's, You know,
All that would happen though is, to be honest, mate, there'd be 2 or 3 companies in Scotland. I mean, they'd have to do some law to like free up the land and whatever else, but there'd be 2 or 3 companies in Scotland that will be tree planting companies, and builders like Persimmons and all these other builders will go.
yeah.
This year you need to plant 100,000 trees for us, please, because we've dug up 1,000. You know what I mean? And that sort of thing. And then you'll manage it, and we'll pay you to do it. Thank you very much. You know, and that's all that happened. It would be easy. If the law came in tomorrow, the government would do it. You know, if the law came in tomorrow, so the companies would do it because they'd have no choice, and they'd still make their money. They'd still make millions in profit.
Yeah.
Well, you know, is likely to bring anything like that into the legislature? I don't know. Doubtful about that. So
that's
really,
why it's so maddening, because it's so easy. It's maddening because it's so simple.
Because so many things that we sort of like discussed at the end of it has been exactly about that. It's like looking at 1 or 2 generations of making an effort, 50 years, say, of making an absolute full-on focused, concerted effort around the world. There's sort of comment earlier about the way that certain other civilizations, or rather civilizations, I beg your pardon, countries aren't as mindful about their emissions as others. Yeah? But if multinationally and unilaterally, we focused on doing it, within 50 years, it had a massive impact on reversing a lot of what had gone. But I can't see that, and it's massive. Just going to be about minimalising the impact, slowing it really, slowing it down rather than halting it. And just, I don't know, maybe that's a little bit pessimistic, but it just seems
we're going to be living with it.
We would have to just stop everything that we're doing right now, this instant, right now, everything, and completely change over instantly as well into completely different types of different fuels and.
And we can't do that, because we have a system. We have systems in place. Even if a technology appeared tomorrow that could revolutionise, like if they come up with a brand new battery tomorrow, that all of a sudden electric cars are actually like had 500-mile range and were really cheap, and we could do it tomorrow, it would still take a decade, because we've got systems in place. We've got 20 million cars on the road. It would still take a long time to come into action. But also our economy would collapse, because our economy is quite largely dependent, particularly in America, on fuel. Good night.
Absolutely, Riley. No problem. Cheers for being here, Phil. Appreciate it. You take care, brother.
Subscribe.
It's 11:15 for us as well, so we need to scoot off soon.
Yeah, it's been a good one, and I like because we've sort of like touched, groped, felt up, just the side of global warming. We've never got to come back to it ever again. So you've missed out there. You've missed out, Damien, if you ever see this. Is the one he was like right behind going. Anything else to add? I mean, I know we sort of segued off, but why not? Because it's that's what we do, really, isn't it? We always end up going off on a mad one.
All I would say is, man, that the universe is almost certainly full of life. Intelligent life might be a bit rarer, but the universe is almost certainly full of life, and it's just a matter of time until we find it. And when we do find it, let's hope it's friendly.
Yeah, sorry, I say that last bit again, actually, because I walked on you there. Sorry, brother.
We just got to hope it's friendly when we do. To be honest, though, when we have the first contact with an alien species, I think it's them that are going to be more worried than we are.
Steve, aka Sexual Chocolate, what do you think?
Sexual chocolate. I think they're here. They have been for hundreds, thousands of years. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Absolute blatant. Oh. Shove out, there's 1 or 2 there that I might be able to scoop up.
I'm so close to 1,000, guys. Come on.
Every live show I do, I lose a couple of subscribers. I need to stop doing them.
No way.
I always lose like 2 or 3 subscribers.
I'm mindful of what you just said, Steve. I heard what you just said. I'm mindful of what you just said. We can do something about that in a more, direct and dynamic fashion. I'm not sure Jay upsetting everybody across the world is the best platform for getting subscribers.
I've only upset the Scottish. and Americans this week.
Yeah, you've done okay. You've only insulted like a massive demographic, haven't you?
Yeah.
Really? How many millions of people?
That's no. America is like 3/4 of my subscribers, and I love you all. There's nobody watching us in Scotland. I don't even think they've got internet yet. So I mean, I wouldn't worry about it.
Any of our northern brethren
I
or
love
bread
Scotland.
sisters, if you have got internet, I'm sure you'll let us know.
I tell you what,
We've still
actually,
not
genuinely,
got TV. Not had
my
TV for a
favourites.
month.
No, they're Northerners. My favourite. I love the Scottish. I genuinely actually do love the Scottish, and the story that I love the Scottish the most is, remember that terrorist attacked the Glasgow airport,
Cheers, mum.
and he went. He had like a dinghy bomb, and he burned, and the terrorist tried to run in. So the Scottish guy punched him in the face, knocked him unconscious, and stepped over him to fuck off on his holiday.
There you go, yeah.
Bloody terrorist, get in my way. I'm going to the Seychelles. That wouldn't happen in most parts of the world. The Scottish as well. We think the British punch above our weight. The Scottish, like I say, there's only 5 million people live there in a country that's massive. And they invented the telly and stuff.
Worthy of note, I have got to put this in, Jay, is the special forces that we like to hold on a pedestal is a big chunk of them are actually from north of the border. That has to be said. So they're definitely a feisty nation.
Yeah.
I like them personally.
Yeah, me too.
For a nation of the
I
British
like
that were all kind of feisty, the Scottish even put us to shame. So
yeah, that's sort of like next level off the nut type of feisty, but it's absolutely fantastic. So go on, no, sorry, Steve, go.
Oh no, just go.
Oh yeah,
Buckfast.
And they invented whiskey.
And the Ireland brew, laddie.
And we're a family of nations as well. And if I know anything about my families, I take the piss out of it every chance I get.
Yeah, well, we'll say this.
At least Scotland's got to say one thing: you're not the Welsh.
Yeah, there is that. You don't pay any attention to us if you are from north of the border, because we're just sassy bastards. So don't worry too much about it. I'm sure you can relate to that one. Has anybody got anything else they want to say in the side chat before we disappear and get on with our lives and leave you to yours? Before I'll keep my eye on the side chat. Well, we'll say this. Remember, next week that we're on Jay's channel, A Brief History and Mystery, aka Psychedelic Funkopus. Is going to be a good one. Jay, what's the name of your other channel? And maybe you can scoot some subs to your side.
That's Sidetrack is the channel I've just started. I've got about 130 subscribers in 3 weeks, so I'm actually really proud of that. But yeah, talking about movies and things, and got a very cool Doctor Who video going on Friday night, talking about the new Doctor.
Oh yeah,
very cleverly put together, or who might be the new Doctor, I should say. But yeah, just talking about sci-fi and movies and films and things. So yeah, if you'd love to go across to that, it's Sidetrack. You'll have to Google it.
So there you go, Sidetrack. Look for Sidetrack on YouTube. Also, as Steve said before, he's very close to getting 1K subs. So if you're not already subscribed to it, I'm not even going to try and say the name of his channel anymore because he's completely...
Stranger Times, it's going back.
He's going back to Stranger Times. There you go. Yeah, I'm just thinking if you kept that name, you'd have to change your T-shirt. You know, the side of like a 4-ton truck. You need just the name alone. Yeah, you jib across to Steve and show him some love, as it were. Sub to his channel if you're not already sub to his channel. Let's try and get him up to that 1K kind of mark. I don't know why his life's over when he reaches that. Your channel goes to pot as soon as you get 1,000 subs. But he doesn't realise that. Poor fool, innocent child. He just doesn't know, but he's soon going to find out. Jay, is it a virgin on the edge of the ridiculous? So, do you want to illuminate us about what you got in store for us next week, sir? Please take the floor.
So we are going to be talking about the September 11 attacks. We're going to bust through a few myths. We'll talk a little bit about how it's changed the world. The 20 years since 9/11 has affected all of us. That's particularly sort of relevant at the moment with what's going on in Afghanistan, which is a direct hangover from 9/11. Yeah. And also just some of the conspiracy theories. We are going to be looking at, was this a false flag operation, and is it how realistic is some of the theories about what happened on 9/11 and our government's involvement. And then we'll just try and get all you lovely people's opinions as well. But I think that with it being particularly the 20th anniversary, what's happened since is going to be particularly interesting to ponder.
Very much so.
But there won't be many jokes. So if you got any jokes, get them out now.
Yeah, I would appreciate that there's a degree of respect on that one. And I'm not, you know, you guys in the side chat are wonderful, obviously, but we have the banter as you're already aware of. But there's not. It's going to be a little bit more serious for obvious reasons, as Jay just said. So I'm looking forward to doing that one. It's a subject that. Again, we are going to cover it, so I don't want to go into it too much. But I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing on that day, and the impact. I remember the way that just the society changed. I think it made me almost taken a little bit churlish now, so many years later. In a way, it's sort of a memory, but it's still very fresh in my mind. And I also say this: that after the US, the second largest loss of life was UK.
Yeah.
It was us. So it's close to the UK as it is to the US. But anyway, that's going to be over on Jay's channel for Mystery Machine, and I'm sure it'll be great. So it's sub to Jay. You should be sub to Jay. You should be sub to Steve, and you put up with me. So why not? But I want to say thanks to Steve. Always love being up here with these guys. Thanks to that trouble causing shit down at the bottom. He's always there with a wooden spoon. But thanks very much, brother. Good one again, Jay. And we'll see you all next week. So give us some love next Wednesday. Yeah, same time, Jay.
Yeah, and we'll pick on the French and the Germans, probably. Spanish. The French actually are a complete pain in the arse after 9/11. They wouldn't invade anybody with us, so we'll probably have a go at them.
Yeah, they never do they?
So bear in mind that we'll have to see how it goes. But
No garlic bread next week.
We'll see.
Oh, God in heaven.
Oh,
Brilliant.
that threw me right off my take, that. I'll see you next week.
Just say goodnight, Dave.
We'll catch you next Wednesday. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being here. Thanks very much for that. It was an interesting topic as always, and we'll catch you next Wednesday on a brief history of mystery. Really appreciate the time. Love. Take it easy from me.
And from me, goodbye.
Good night, guys.
Cheers.
See you next week.
Jamie.